disability throughout time, yours and mine. The stories are in the bones, lasting stones.
As populations in cities and counties expanded, the old poor houses began to close. These locations were prime real estate.
In order to solve the problem of what to do with poorhouse residents, states began to build giant institutions for the mentally insane.
People with disabilities were pushed further away from their communities.
I don't really remember much about my brother. Most of my memories are going to the institution to visit. He had some sort of mental retardation. In today's world, he would have been put in a special ed class and not sent away for life. As a small child, he was just all over the place. He couldn't focus in school, he was getting bad grades. He didn't have many friends. Of course, this is all based on what my parents have told me. Doctors told my parents to institutionalize him when I was 4 and he was 8. We were told to forget him, but we visited from time to time. We treated him not as blood, but as an errand to run. A visit to your brother shouldn't be a trip to Acme or something. Over time, he mellowed out. It must have been the drugs and the meds that kept pumping into him. The last memory I have of him was when I was 14, he was 22. I went up to say hi and he barely noticed. He was slurring his words, he moved slowly. He was just barely him anymore. They turned a hare into a tortoise. Even less than a tortoise. A sort of a unresponsive snail. The following week, we learned that he had killed himself. We don't know how. To add insult to injury, we couldn't attend his funeral. He was buried in an unmarked location. We never even saw his body.
My wife put me in Orient. I had allergies and seizures. It felt horrible. The place was crowded. It smelled like urine. The people in there acted crazy. They were screaming and crying. The staff just stood around. We did nothing but sit in wooden chairs. In the room was cramped and cold. At night, we went to bed. In beds that were pushed together. All I could hear was people crying in their sleep. All I could think about was I want to get out of there. That's when I was 25. Now I'm 83 today.
Well, my mom and dad died when I was young. I ain't got no one to take care of me. A sheriff came to my door, put me in handcuffs, and put me in a car. And I was crying, "What'll I do this time?" The sheriff looked at me and said,
Boy, you don't have anyone to take care of you, so I'm taking you to Apple Creek.
"Yeah, that sounded like a nice place. I picture apple trees and creeks flowing in the backyard." Well, we drove for a long time out into the countryside. We passed big farms and fields with trees. We came to a big gate at the end of the long drive. I smelled something bad and I started to worry. We stopped in front of a big red brick building. The smell was worse. I could hear people scream with terror. I didn't want to get out of the car, but the sheriff made me get out and marched me up to the door and into a room where he gave me a mean-looking woman. She looked me up and down to her assistant.
Take him to cottage number 5.
The man walked me past Smitty Billy. I hear more screams and smell more bad smells. We arrived at a huge gray building that said Cottage number 5 on the door. I was taken to a large room filled with 50 beds, all jammed together so you can barely squeeze through your own bed. I began to cry. They made me take off my own clothes and put me in ragged clothes on. And they take away my old clothes, and I never saw them again. And then they pushed me through a narrow door into a room filled with 50 boys. They're screaming and fighting and crying. They're rocking back and forth. They're sitting with a bench and chairs. They're crawling on the floor. They're trying to climb on the walls. They're trying to get through the iron bars on the window. Well, this is a nightmare, right? No way! This is where I live for the next 35 years.
When you think of a place called Apple Creek, you think of rolling hills, warm meadows stretching out into the horizon. You can imagine the smell of sweet flowers and apple-flavored pastries baking. You can almost feel the sun on your skin and the light breeze blowing through your hair. But when I think about it, I remember the sound of rattling meadow and far-off screaming. Instead of vast meadows, there are cramped rooms and long, cold hallways, and the only thing you can smell is sadness. Pastries aren't allowed. My parents sent my sister away when she was 15. I was 12. They told me she was sick, and I never heard of her again. Sometimes late at night, I would hear them whispering about a place called Apple Creek, and I could sleep soundly thinking she was somewhere nice, safe. I almost thought I was in the wrong place when I was finally old enough to visit her on my own. The brick building was nothing like I imagined, and I felt like I was carrying a heavy load on my back, and I walked into the request to visit her, and then they wheeled her out. I remember my sister was bubbly, outgoing girl, but this was someone else. We sat in silence for a long time, and it was like her eyes were clouded over. I'll never forget the way she looked at me. She didn't even recognize me. I'm not sure I recognized her. When she finally spoke, it was in a hushed, gentle voice. She was like a ghost. It was almost like she never existed. And all I was hearing was a far-off echo of whoever she was years ago. And I realized that it was too late, that my sister was gone. So I left, and I never came back until today.
I once was a worker in a state institution a long time ago. I had 90 people to watch over every day. We kept them in a big room. There was a TV, but they couldn't watch it. The TV was facing the workers. So I spent my day watching TV while they cried, screamed, and rolled around on the floor.
They don't care. They're cruel. They're disrespectful. I was just eating until a food fight broke out. I thought I was in the right. I thought I stayed out of it. But then a nurse came up to me and said, "You are done." They took my food. Even as I begged and pleaded, they took it. The hunger pained me as much as the feeling that I was lower did. I felt upset and misused. I felt like the lowest of the low. Here the pyramid of life has the patience of the bottom struggling to survive, while the people who are supposed to be helping you, the people you are supposed to look up to, taking all you have.
Tick tock. I was cold. Tick tock. Every second of every day, stuck on this bench.
Tick. No, I can't stand the clock overseeing me like it's my prison warden. I could barely remember why I had been on the bench, as it has been so long. Every day was a repeat of the last. Get up, get sent to the bench, wait, then go to sleep. Get up, get sent to the bench, wait, then go to sleep. Get up, get sent to the bench, wait, then go to sleep. It was a cycle meant to punish me, but punish me for what? Was I being punished because I had no voice? Was I being punished because my mind and my body were separate? Why am I being punished for something I can't control? It's already horrible to feel like your body is your enemy, but to feel like your guardians, the people who are supposed to protect you, would rather want you dead. It's heartbreaking. I wonder how much longer I'll sit on this bench. A few hours, a few days, a few weeks, a few months, a few years? Or just maybe, as the clock continues to tick.
Hey, 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 the bones are crying. Hey, 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 the truth is flying. No more, no more, no more. The graveyard is telling its tale. No more, no more, no more. The graveyard is telling its tale. No more, no more, no more.